Support comes from Seattle Restored, revitalizing Seattle neighborhoods with creativity and commerce. Over 95 vacant storefronts have been transformed into vibrant pop-up shops, window art installations, and artist residences. Explore current and past locations at seattlerestored.org.
Seattle is a boom town. From manufacturing to tech, some of the world's biggest companies have brought jobs and wealth to the region.
But that comes with real growing pains. I'm Joshua McNichols.
And I'm Monica Nicholsberg. We host Booming, a podcast that helps you make sense of the economic forces shaping our lives here in the Pacific Northwest.
From the big budget projects on Seattle's to-do list
to the artificial intelligence age,
we get into the stories that hit your wallet and our region. Listen now on the KUOW app or wherever you get podcasts.
From KUOW in Seattle, this is Meet Me Here, your weekly guide to arts and culture events worth leaving your house for. I'm Jeannie Yandel, and this week, co-hosts Katie Campbell and Dyer Oxley are here with me. We're going to share the events that we're most excited about for February. Hi, Katie. Hi, Dyer.
Hey. Hello.
Can I tell you both something?
Yes. Maybe.
Okay. I really have a hard time during this time of year. It's just like all the fun stuff of the holidays is over and it's just cold and rainy and it doesn't feel like it's going to end, even though I know it's going to end. Like, you know, April will come, cherry blossom season will be amazing. But I just feel very bleh this time of year. It's very hard for me to leave my house.
We also had to just people so much. And I'm like, y'all still want me to people? I still got to go places
really
and
good
talk?
Point.
Oh, no.
I don't know why I'm not more of a goth, because I feel like this year, I feel like I really missed that calling in my life. But I like this time of year. I think there's a lot of silver linings in this time of year.
That's a good call.
Maybe we can find them today.
Oh, my God, this guy.
Okay.
That's why I'm not a goth.
Right. You do turn frowns upside down, which is something goths don't really like to do. You raise a fair point, Dyer, because when I started looking around for ideas for this episode, I found a lot of cool stuff happening in late January and in February actually kind of made me feel okay about leaving my house and going out and doing things and peopling again, right? And
peopling with boundaries.
Yes, peopling with boundaries. It felt like I had stuff to look forward to. And I have to say, your ideas got me even more excited. There are a couple of specific things you both mentioned that I'm definitely planning on doing. So without further ado, we should get into this, yes?
Yay.
Yeah, let's talk about the things. Okay, sunshiny, happy goth, Dyer Oxley. I want to start with you because there's a new convention in town and you're going. What's going on?
Happy goth people.
That's right.
Lesser known REM song. Yes, Anime Washington is the new anime convention in town, and by in town I mean Puyallup. It's a double up convention. It's Anime Washington is the new one. It's also Washington State Gaming Expo. I'll explain why in a second. But It's February 6th through 8th at the Washington State Fairgrounds down in Puyallup. And again, like this is on the newer side of the anime conventions locally, which there aren't a lot, but it is promoted as everything gaming, anime, manga, and Asian pop culture over 3 days.
Wow. Okay, so this is for really anybody who's into gaming, who's into anime, who's into like anything Japanese pop culture, really.
And you can understand the crossover there because essentially what you're talking about here is artists and voice actors, and they work in both those fields. So you can kind of see why those have paired up quite a bit. And with this event, I've spoken with the promoter before, and they really do emphasize the guest factor on this one. So you can meet these voices, you can meet these artists behind an anime you like, a video game you like.
What excites you about this convention? When you talk about all of the different things that are going to be there, I feel a little overwhelmed. I almost feel like I wouldn't know what to pick. Like, what are you looking forward to?
I don't know. I might be a little more unique in this. And I just like really walking them. Because this is, I really like fan events like this. These are events when folks get together. It's almost like communing with the other folks in your neighborhood that you didn't know were there, but you both really like Cowboy Bebop a little too much. Stuff like that. And I mean, and nothing against like the Etsy's of the world, but this is really like a one-stop shop for your local artists. The Emerald City Comic Con, for example, it has an artist alley, just artwork. And I mean, that's how big it is just for that.
It's
and then
really
you have
cool.
crafters and things. And there's just cleverness and skill that gets combined. And I really don't know anywhere else to find it but at a fan event like this that just concentrates so much on it.
the thing that you're excited about is just kind of taking in all of the
I love
cool
taking
stuff.
in all of that. But for folks that are super fans, unlike me, so like this event, for example, they emphasize the guests, the voice actors. 2 of them I'm going to point out. One is Mei Hong, who is the voice of Mira on K-pop Demon Hunters.
We only have to write the best diss track ever to crush the Idol Awards or there will be a demon apocalypse. No pressure at all.
A bunch of other roles too, but everything is K-pop Demon Hunters these days.
I love that movie so much, Dyer. I have watched that movie a dozen times. I love it so
You're
much.
so golden. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's also local actress Jen Taylor, and I love this one too because this is an actress who's on stage locally all over the place. Has worked with like the local Shakespeare company, but most folks in the world know her as the voice of Cortana on Halo or Princess Peach and Toad in a bunch of Mario games.
I am your shield. I am your sword.
This is the place where you get to go and like meet them and say, "Oh my gosh, there's a face to umpteen different voices that I've been following over the years."
Oh, I love that. Okay, Katie, you are also talking about a kickoff event for a whole entire series that you are hosting. This kickoff event is on February 26th at Seattle's Central Library. You're having a conversation with writer and historian Cole Thrush.
Yes.
So why is this one of your picks?
Well, because my favorite form of peopling is talking to an author. That's the best way to do it. You can have this like really great conversation about style and process and like whatever the topic is, obviously. And I just kind of get to do it for work and in front of an audience sometimes. And that's what we're doing with Cole Thrush. So yeah, February 26th is going to be our first. We're calling them book talks in partnership with Seattle Public Library. So it's going to start in February and go to May. But let's talk about Cole's event specifically. Yeah, he's an author and a historian. He's also a professor of history and an associate faculty member in critical Indigenous studies at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. All of that is to say he knows his stuff. He kind of takes a perspective on history that is specific to the Indigenous experience. So he tries to take things that we kind of know from a settler perspective, and which I should say, too, he kind of labels himself specifically as a settler historian, but he has an interest in Indigenous perspectives, voices, and experiences with settler history. And that's what he's doing in Wrecked, Unsettling Histories from the Graveyard of the Pacific. That's his most recent book, and the one we're going to be talking about in February. This book is going to be wild, I think. It's looking at the daunting Pacific coastline and how its features have led to more than 2,000 shipwrecks over generations. And that's earned the coastal areas around like Oregon, Washington, and Vancouver Island the moniker Graveyard of the Pacific, hence the title of the book.
Wow.
So he's going to be talking about these wild shipwreck stories from the perspective of settler survivors and observers, but in particular, the Indigenous peoples who encountered the shipwreckies, if you will, and experienced like not only new people coming to their lands, but like the experience of watching a giant boat, strike rocky coastline. So you're going to get a little history, you're going to get a little environmental knowledge, and a lot of beautiful storytelling.
And also, dear listener, we have links and more information for every single event we're talking about. They'll be in our show notes. It'll also show up on our website at KUOW.org. So if you miss a URL or you miss something else, fear not. We've got everything ready for you. Okay. So my recommendation is one that actually got me thinking critically about what I would argue is probably the most important relationship in my life, if not one of the most important relationships in my life. And this is my relationship with my phone. The Frye Museum is hosting a solo show from local artist Camille Troutman. This is their first solo museum exhibition in their hometown. And it's a photography series called the North American LCD. So this is a series of photos of Camille, nudes of Camille, in different natural environments. Like there's one of them near Boeing Creek. There's one of them near a river in eastern Washington. And in each image, they're holding a large LCD screen. It's really fascinating. What Camille will do is use all of these different processes to kind of blur out their body so that there are no crisp lines, even though it's like a human form, you can tell. But what's really crisp in each image is the LCD screen, right? In one of the images they made, the one on the river in eastern Washington, they shook their head really fast in order to blur out like the entire shape of their head. And so you see no facial features at all. Like the most crisp part of their body is the toe they're dipping into the river. And they sort of look ghostly, like these images are sort of haunting.
Yeah, sounds
right?
creepy.
Yeah, it is. There's an element of creep to it. And Camille even says like they are exploring their own relationship to digital media, to gender, to colonialism. They're native Duwamish. And as I was looking at these images, I found myself sort of thinking about how often I spend time falling into a screen, staring at a screen, my TV, my phone, my computer screen. And it's almost like these images Camille made, this exhibition, showed me something that I didn't have language for. It's that idea of kind of forgetting or ignoring that you have a physical body when you're in your screen too much. You know, like you might have to go to the bathroom, you might be hungry, you might be thirsty, but those like physical things fade away when you're too involved or very involved with the screen in front of you. Mm-hmm. And I had never really seen a representation of that before. And this exhibition caused me to really be like, do I need to watch an episode of Drag Race on my phone every night before I go to bed? Could I do something else? No shade to Drag Race. It's one of my favorite shows. But I really appreciated that that this work caused me to think really critically about how I spend my time and what and who I spend my time with.
Yeah.
And that runs through April at the Fry Museum. Admission is always free at the Fry as well.
You know what else is always free? The public library. And I forgot to mention that my talk with Cole Thrush and the rest of the winter series is also free to attend. I love these public spaces that are like, culture is important to everyone's lives, whatever form that may take, art, books, talks about books or art. So yeah, tickets are always free.
That is an excellent point.
Thank you. And thank you, Seattle Public Library.
Support comes from Seattle Restored, revitalizing Seattle neighborhoods with creativity and commerce. Over 95 vacant storefronts have been transformed into vibrant pop-up shops, window art installations, and artist residences. Explore current and past locations at seattlerestored.org.
Everything is expensive in Seattle. But when it comes to restaurants, I got a lot of tricks and tips up my sleeve to help diners eat well in this city. I'm Ton Ben, host of Seattle Eats, a food podcast from the Seattle Times and KUOW, part of the NPR network. I'll share about the latest buzz in the Seattle food scene, like the hottest openings and the best bites that are worth your money. Listen now to Seattle Eats on the KUOW app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Dyer, when you shared this next recommendation with me, I was actually pretty pumped about it. It's 2 instrumental music events, but they're also gaming events.
Yes.
So what are they?
I'm fitting 2 events into one recommendation here. Yeah. One is Death Stranding, Strands of Harmony, February 4th at the Paramount Theater, performing music from the video game Death Stranding. I had to write that down because, oh my gosh. Elden Ring, Symphonic Adventure with the Seattle Symphony is on February 25th and the 26th at Benaroya Hall. This is performing music from the video game Elden Ring. These are 2 video games, fairly recent, 2019, 2020 releases, but have become immensely popular. And I love these types of events. And it's just a very modernized form of it. And it becomes so much more personal when you actually go and watch it. It's a much different experience, much different audiences. And it's something I feel like is old yet new, you know?
Dyer, I've been to events sort of like this before. When I lived in Chicago, I went to see the Chicago Symphony Orchestra play the music from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, if you guys remember that movie.
Right.
I know that the Symphony is doing the Blade Runner soundtrack later in January. What are events like this like? I mean, have you been to like an Elden Ring Symphony event before?
Not Elden Rings. I've bin to one for Zelda. The music from
cool.
Zelda games. It's something else. First of all, there's a lot of cosplay, right? But I also interviewed the composer for that particular show, and he was even telling me, he's like, the audience is just different, right? There is a feedback cycle going on between the musicians and the audience that you just really don't get at a lot of classical music performances. And there's just, the art is happening right there, and it's almost like this instant magic that the musician and the audience is experiencing at the same time. And I got to say, something that you mentioned is a really good point, because there are these ways that symphonies are trying to modernize themselves and be relevant to new audiences. One is the film thing. Mm-hmm. I've seen John Williams, for example, has toured his music around. Anybody who's watched TV or movies since the 50s,
right?
Star Wars, Superman, like John
famously
Williams,
the conductor,
right.
He wrote the Jaws theme.
Nina, my wife, went to Ramin Djawadi. He is the composer for Game of Thrones, Westworld, currently Fallout. That event packed out the Climate Pledge Arena.
Wow.
And so there are these events happening.
And you mentioned K-pop Demon Hunters earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that album has taken off, right?
Right.
Like our new media and culture is expanding, and the music that is created for these things, there's a lot of thought put into it.
Okay, well, I love that we're talking about musical events that sort of defy convention, because Katie, that describes your recommendation here too.
Yeah.
I thought this sounded so cool. It is a music event, but it's also lots of different genres. What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's more like musical poetry, I would say. It's a really cool offering from Seattle Arts and Lectures. They are bringing Aja Monet to Town Hall Seattle on February 5th. And for folks who may not know, Monet is a Grammy-nominated surrealist blues poet, musician, and community organizer. As soon as I say the words surrealist blues poet, you probably understand why I'm down for this. Fans of NPR's Tiny Desk concert might remember seeing her perform there. It was like seriously something else. She performed Why My Love, and it was just like, oh my God, it hits you right in the heart. And then she dedicated her piece Black Joy to a friend who had passed. It was just wildly good.
My love, be a frontline, be a riot, a fighter, a shade that sisters and saves. My love survived the middle passage, waded the waters. My love be grassroots, organizes movements.
She's got a new collection of poems called Florida Water, so now you really know
right up your alley
why it caught my attention as a recovering Floridian. The collection reflects on Monet's migration to South Florida in search of love, connection, and belonging. Folks who listen to the literary episodes of Meet Me Here, you know I love surrealism. Like, surreal, speculative fiction, it gets into just like what could be. And sometimes that's really dark, and other times it's really beautiful. Like, I kind of think that's Monet's vibe too, is sometimes she's writing about really deep, dark, sad things, and her poetry reflects that. Other times she's writing in a way that's like evoking the hope and the goodness that is possible in the world. And that's the surrealism, I think. The blues is just like, man, the vibe. And then the poet part is just, she's an incredible poet. So there you go. Surrealist blues poet. We broke it down.
There's something really awesome sounding about being in a room with someone in real time while they're lyrically creating worlds, ideas, images. That just sounds really dynamic.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I would describe Monet's style of performance, is dynamic. Seattle Arts and Lectures is framing this as what they're calling a multi-genre event, combining poetry and music, obviously, but also, like, I don't know, probably whatever medium strikes Monet in the moment. When she went to Tiny Desk concert, she and her team turned the set into a garden. Like, they had all of these plants to fully cultivate a vibe.
Okay, and we will totally have a link to Aja Monet's Tiny Desk performance as well in our show notes, so you can really get a sense of the dynamism that Katie's talking about here. So my recommendation, I feel like, fits in really nicely with both of yours. It is a music event, but also it taught me something that I didn't really know about what I considered a kind of old art form. So it's an opera called Fellow Travelers, happening at Seattle Opera, running from February 21st through March 1st.
Last night, how many kisses, his hands.
This opera was originally performed for the first time in 2016, so it's a baby in the world of opera. But it's one of the most performed new operas of the last decade. The music won, New York Times Best of Classical Music in 2016. And I can't stop thinking about the story of this opera. It is a historical fiction set during the 1950s, during the McCarthy era in the federal government. A young man fresh out of college is all fired up to join Senator McCarthy's fight against communism, and he gets a job working for a senator. And then he meets a man who works in a senior position at the State Department, and the two of them fall in love. This is all against the backdrop of what's called the Lavender Scare of the 1950s. This resulted in mass firings in the federal government of people who were suspected of being gay. And yes, Senator Joseph McCarthy, who led the witch hunt against so-called communists, the Red Scare, also went after so-called deviant sexualities, the Lavender Scare. So these two men are also in danger of losing their own careers, of being outed and having all sorts of awful consequences. So there's a lot of tension in the story, and it explores something that I didn't really know about when I learned about McCarthyism, which was that Joseph McCarthy and his acolytes were going after people for all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. We sort of learn about it as a focus on anti-communism that went a little too far, but it was so much more damaging and far-reaching than that. One of the other things I'm excited about with Fellow Travelers is that it is not just an opera. It is based on a book of the same name, which was also turned into a Showtime miniseries. Mm-hmm. So there's this opportunity to get a multimedia experience.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can watch the miniseries on Showtime. You can read the book. You can go see the opera. And Katie Campbell, I hear you're talking to the author of the book, Fellow Travelers. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I would love to tell you a little bit about that because, yes, I'm literally about to start reading the book. I just got it from the library. This is not sponsored by the library, I promise, but my heart is sponsored by the library. Anyway, yes, I'm going to be talking to the author of Fellow Travelers, Thomas Mallon, on February 20th in connection with the launch of the opera. So this is the night before the opera actually starts. We're going to be at Town Hall Seattle, and we're going to talk to Mallon about how this book, that means a lot to him, has been adapted and is reaching so many different audiences. He also has a new book out called The Very Heart of It, New York Diaries, 1983 to 1994, that is chronicling his life as a young gay writer in New York City during the AIDS crisis. Again, that's on February 20th, right before the opera kicks off. So not only can you read the book, watch the Showtime, go to the opera, but you can come hear from Thomas Mallon himself.
Ooh. This is a 4-pronged multimedia experience we're talking about here, people. Amazing. Katie Campbell and Dyer Oxley, my awesome co-hosts. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
These are excellent recommendations, and it's always really fun to talk with you both. And my dear listener friends, if you want other ideas for stuff to do, particularly stuff to do this weekend, we got you. Listen to the weekend warm-up from Jason Megatron Burrows. You can find that every Friday in the Meet Me Here feed or on Thursday afternoons around 12:45 p.m. on Soundside on KUOW. Thanks for listening to Meet Me Here. Meet Me Here is produced by KUOW, a proud member of the NPR network. It's hosted by Katie Campbell, Dyer Oxley, and me, Jeannie Yandel, and it's produced by Kyle Norris, Brandy Fullwood, and Matt Martin. Phyllis Fletcher is our editor. You can find out more and support the show at kuow.org/meet. And if you are enjoying Meet Me Here, let us know. Rate and review the show wherever you listen. It really helps. And if you have an arts and culture event you want to tell us about, email us at arts@kuow.org. That's arts@kuow.org. Thanks so much. See you soon.
You're listening to NPR. You care about local politics.
But it can be hard to keep track and understand how it affects you. I'm Scott Greenstone.
And I'm Libby Denkman.
And on Sound Politics, we talk about this and the other Washington like normal people.
As normal as we can pretend to be. We get beyond the headlines, ask the tough questions, and tie the big stories back to our own backyard.
Sound Politics. Listen now on the KUOW app or wherever you get your podcasts.